And welcome back, everyone, to Aftershock Wrestling Entertainment Podcast. Welcome back to the Awcast. I am your host, Brant Fowler, and we've got some wrestling to talk about with Forbidden Door this weekend. And I'm going to talk a little about some other WWE stuff as well, but not go too far into depth with that because I might do another episode with Money in the Bank coming up next weekend. But this episode's mainly going to be about Forbidden Door, so we'll talk about that and maybe some predictions. I don't know. I don't know if I'll go full into that. But before we get into all that, I do want to remind you that you can find past episodes of the show at awpodcast.com. That is awepodcast.com. That'll take you to the YouTube channel where you can watch videos of the show, or if you are an audio fan, you can find it at allpodcast.com/show or find it on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get podcasts from. You can also follow me across social media at the Awcast, and if you'd like to subscribe to the newsletter and get a free AEW fan comic by creator Todd Black, you can go to allpodcast.com/subscribe. All right, so now that we've got all the promotion stuff going out of the way, I'm gonna try not to go down too many rabbit holes. I will give one more rabbit hole though, and I apologize for this because this has nothing to do with wrestling, but while I'm here and while I'm talking about promotional stuff and everything, I might as well toss in a plug for mine and my wife's latest comic book. So if you're a comic book fan and you're an Alice in Wonderland fan and you're a fantasy fan, go check out CuriousComic.com for our latest series on Kickstarter, Curiouser. We're all mad here. #1, funding through July 5th. So just a little sidetrack with that. Now let's get into some wrestling. Before I get into AEW's Forbidden Door and other AEW news or updates, predictions, whatever, I do want to address a couple of things from WWE. First of all, Money in the Bank, it seems like it's shaping up to be a decent event. I don't really love the inclusion of like the big guys in the ladder matches because it's just, I don't know, it always bothers me, like when Kane or Big Show was in them, and now we've got Omos, so we'll see how it goes, though. But anyway, I'm not going to go too far into the Vince McMahon stuff. My only thought on this is if that there's always multiple sides to a story, that I hope any guilty parties are punished justly and restitution made and all that stuff, and that the toxicity of the wrestling industry can continue to improve and grow and become a better place for everyone. So, but my opinion doesn't matter, according to Christian Cage, as he said on Dynamite. I'm just a guy on the internet, but it's not going to stop me from sharing my opinion. That's why I do this podcast, because I love wrestling and I love talking about wrestling. So that's really my only thoughts on Vince McMahon. Whatever. And I mean, not whatever. It's serious allegations, and it's being handled. So hopefully the right things happen, and we can move forward from this, and everybody's better off in the long run. That's my hope for the industry and everyone involved. So, yeah. And then Paige. I know I'm a little behind the news because I haven't done an episode in a couple weeks. My whole household got COVID for the second time last week, so I just haven't felt up to doing much. But yeah, so Paige got let go from WWE. Supposedly, she doesn't have a non-compete clause. There is a pay-per-view this weekend called Forbidden Door. Who knows what's going to happen? I would love to see Paige on AEW, of course, in any form or fashion. So, not saying that's going to happen, but it could. It's not out of the realm of possibility, so we'll see what happens. And then there's Sasha Banks, who is reportedly trying to get out of her contract. Where does she go if she's no longer with WWE? AEW is the only place that makes sense to me. Naomi, on the other hand, not quite as big a star. Very talented, very underrated. Should be as big a star, but facts are facts. She's not. She could end up back in WWE at Impact, somewhere else. I would actually like to see her become part of the bloodline. I mean, she is married to one of the Usos. That could be an interesting arc to take it into the women's division as well. I would love to see Solo Sakai. Is that how you pronounce it? Solo in NXT become part of it as well and kind of carry that banner into NXT. I think they could do a lot more with the bloodline, but they're probably just thinking, "Kiss, keep it simple, stupid." So, either way, I think both of these women are going to bounce back, and wherever they land, I'm going to be happy to watch them both. But if Sasha Banks is not in WWE and she's not going straight to Hollywood, I think it makes sense to put her in AEW. And this is just kind of me riffing on this, but imagine this: Sasha Banks in AEW doing an angle like The Rock with Nation of Domination. So it's kind of a reverse thing here, because in Nation of Domination, Farouk, aka Ron Simmons, was the top guy. He was the leader of the group, and he was the veteran, right? And The Rock was the upstart, the newbie, the rookie coming in and kind of taking over. Well, you could do the complete reverse of that, where Jade is the rookie, Jade Cargill, and Sasha comes in and into the baddies and kind of takes over, right? And you do a face turn for Jade, and then you have a feud between Jade and Sasha, or whatever name she would end up going by. I think that could be a cool angle. That's just some fantasy booking, but wherever she ends up, we'll see what happens. But that's all for the WWE side of things. I'm going to save any thoughts about Money in the Bank for the next episode. I'm going to try to do an episode before Money in the Bank airs next week sometime. So be on the lookout for that if you are a WWE fan. Otherwise, let's get into that AEW stuff. Forbidden Door, topic of the hour. Bryan Danielson announces on Dynamite this week that he is not medically cleared to compete at Forbidden Door or in Blood and Guts on next week's Dynamite. So he was supposed to face Zack Sabre Jr. for AEW New Japan Forbidden Door this coming Sunday, and he can't do that. And he can't compete in the Blood and Guts match where he was teaming up with Moxley, Kingston, and Santana and Ortiz and Wheeler Yuta to take on the Jericho Appreciation Society. So he said that he was handpicking a replacement, the only person that he trusted that was a technical wrestler that could do the job, both at Forbidden Door and in Blood and Guts. And of course, the internet speaks up immediately. And I had the same exact thoughts, because I think we all have the same exact thoughts when you think about people that are close to Bryan Danielson, people that Bryan Danielson has championed in the past, recent past, people that their non-compete clauses are probably about up, and they are, like the perfect choice here, which is the formerly known as Cesaro, Claudio. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, Castellanagi, I think that's what he went by when he was on the Indies before. That's like the obvious choice, right? Everybody's saying it's going to be Cesaro. Cesaro, no question about it, Cesaro. And I agree. It's the perfect replacement for Bryan Danielson. And we could see Cesaro, whatever he's going to call himself, Claudio, in a completely new light. Something that WWE wouldn't let us see, honestly. And, people that have seen him on the Indies before he went to WWE have seen different sides, but he's grown as a competitor. And he's another one of those top talent, underrated wrestlers that could steal the show. And I'm not familiar with Zack Sabre Jr. really, but if he's a technical wrestler as well, I'd love to see some technical wrestling. And we know that Cesaro can get down too, so putting him in the Blood and Guts match. And there's also that history with Jake Hager when they were, We the People. And so you've got history there, and you've got history with Danielson and Cesaro as well. So it seems like the perfect and most obvious choice, and all stars aligned, that's going to be your pick. But just for argument's sake, let's say it's not Claudio, Cesaro. Who else could it be? My initial thoughts, bring Impact into this. And if you bring Impact into this, and you have a representative from Impact, the perfect choice there is the walking weapon, Josh Alexander. Technical prowess, can brawl and battle with the best of them. top-notch competitor. I think that would be a perfect choice as well. It'd be a really good replacement for Bryan Danielson, both technically and in blood and guts. I think there's an argument to be had there. Another person that could fit the bill, at least on the technical aspect of it, is Jonathan Gresham, who he's already part of that whole AEW Ring of Honor family, so you could tap into that. It could be somebody from New Japan. I'm not as familiar with their roster. But yeah, those are just a couple of other names that you could throw in there that would make sense that you could put in Danielson's place. But when you're talking about somebody that he trusts, somebody that he has history with, I think Cesaro is the obvious choice. And it makes this topic very short. So I was trying to spread it out and try to give some other options that it could possibly be. I can't think of other people that aren't being utilized that were that would be handpicked by Bryan Danielson. I was trying to think of people that are maybe on Dark or whatever, and I'm just not coming up with any names that would be standouts for Bryan Danielson. He's like he said, he's a judgmental, in his words, a judgmental prick, as he put it on Dynamite. So I think he's going to stick to people that he's had history with, that he knows, that we know, as fans, storyline wise. And outside of stories, just people that he's close with, maybe. So Claudio / Cesaro makes most sense, obviously. But it's going to be very interesting to see exactly who it is, whose music hits, who walks out on that stage come Sunday at Forbidden Door, and how that plays into Blood and Guts following that next Wednesday on Dynamite. So we'll all be watching and, with bated breath and on the edge of our seats to see who is replacing Bryan Danielson at AEW Forbidden Door. So that's that. That's that topic. So let's get into some more Forbidden Door discussion. Talk about some of these matches. We've got on the pre-show, we got Max Caster and the Gun Club taking on Alex Coughlin, Kevin Knight, the DKC, and Yuya Uemura in an 8-man tag match. I'm not familiar with any of those wrestlers. I don't watch a whole lot of New Japan. I apologize for that, for all the fans out there. I have limited time, and I watch a lot of AEW, I watch a lot of WWE, and I watch some Impact. And every once in a while, I can try to catch some New Japan. It's just, there's a lot of wrestling and not a lot of time to watch it. So the Forbidden Door is very exciting for me because I get to see a lot of wrestlers that I'm not as familiar with and that I've heard a lot about, but haven't had the opportunity to really get to know in the ring. So it's going to be a cool event for me to behold and see the contrast in styles and contrast in athletic prowess that we're going to see. So I'm not familiar with any of these people, but Max Caster and the Gun Club, they're typically jokester, heelish kind of characters, so I would imagine they're going to lose. So that's going to be my pick, that they're going to lose to the New Japan team. We've got Shota Umino, and I do also apologize if I mispronounce any of these names. Again, I'm not as familiar. Shota Umino with Wheeler Yuta and Eddie Kingston versus the Jericho Appreciation Society members, Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and joining them is Minoru Suzuki, who we saw come down during Dynamite and join the fray with Lance Archer and the JAS as well. And that's going to be a 6-man tag match. I say going into Blood and Guts because I think probably Mox's team, Kingston's team, is going to take the victory in Blood and Guts. I'm going to step out on a limb and say that the JAS takes this one at Forbidden Door, just to pour more fire on the feud that is Kingston and Jericho, pun fully intended on that. So we'll see. We've got Darby Allin teaming up with obviously Sting, Hiromu Takahashi, and Shingo Takagi versus the Young Bucks and the Bullet Club, which is represented by El Phantasmo and Hikuleo. This is a tough one. Again, I'm not familiar with Takahashi and Takagi. I am familiar with El Phantasmo and Hikuleo because I've watched a fair amount of Bullet Club footage, and of course they've both appeared in Impact as well. And the Young Bucks are the tag champs, and you've got Sting, who's a veteran, and Darby, but they're favorites. But Young Bucks are favorites in New Japan. Their history with New Japan goes back a long ways, and seeing them together again with Bullet Club, I'm actually gonna go out on a limb and say the Young Bucks and Bullet Club take this one. I could be completely wrong on this, but that's what I think is going to happen in this one. So we'll see. Women's title, AEW Women's title. Thunder Rosa, champion, defends against Toni Storm. Is it time for Toni Storm to finally step up and take a major title and dethrone Thunder Rosa, who has been on a run and has, really grown in the past few years in AEW? Is it time for Toni Storm to take AEW's women's division by storm, though? I'm not so sure, but I kind of would like to see that. I'd like to see Storm get that opportunity to run with the ball and see what she does with it. So I'm going to pull for Toni Storm, and therefore that's going to be my pick. This is one I think I may get wrong, but I'm going to go with Toni Storm because I really want to see her elevated, and I think she was wasted once she came up to the main roster on WWE, and I think she felt the same way, and that's why she walked. So hopefully this is her opportunity to really show what she's capable of. We're getting into some heavy matches now. I'm going to where do I want to go next? I'll go with the FTR teaming up with or it's FTR versus the United Empire. So it's Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb versus FTR versus Roppongi Vice in a three-way winner-takes-all match for the Ring of Honor and IWGP tag title. So whoever wins gets both championships. The United Empire, of course, the IWGP champions, and FTR, the Ring of Honor champions. That's a tough call. United Empire, I've become more familiar with in their appearances on AEW recently. Jeff Cobb, of course, I've seen in Ring of Honor. He has history there. This is a tough one. And then you've got Roppongi Vice, Trent Beretta, and Rocky Romero, who are titleists. They're the ones coming in this with no championships. But FTR on a roll, man. And their popularity just keeps growing and growing. So I'm predicting FTR takes this one all the way. They walk away with both titles. We'll see what happens. Zack Sabre Jr., if it is against Cesaro, I'm always going to vote for Cesaro. Claudio, I think he is one of the most underrated talents to ever step foot in WWE. They did not give him his just dues. His mic skills weren't always the best, but in ring, bell to bell, one of the best, absolutely. And he could do so much without those restrictions, I think. And I can't wait to see him if he is the opponent. Otherwise, it's a toss-up. I think whoever steps in for Bryan Danielson, though, is going to take the victory over Zack Sabre Jr. We have the four-way match for the inaugural AEW All-Atlantic Championship, which is basically AEW's United States or Intercontinental Championship, their second-tier championship. And it's a big match. You've got Pac versus Miro versus Tomohiro Ishii versus Malachi Black. These are four heavy hitters. These are four superstars. These are four top-level athletes, top-level performers, top-level wrestlers. And this is going to be a hard one to pick. Any four of these could walk away with that championship, and I think everybody would be happy. I think Ishii is probably the least of these three just because it's the AEW championship, and I think it's going to be an AEW guy to walk away with it. Who? Malachi? leading the House of Black with a championship, Pac, who has been there since day one practically and has not held a championship, or Miro, who is Miro. And I mean, I could see the future, looking into the future. If Claudio comes to AEW, can you imagine Claudio versus Miro for that AEW All Atlantic Championship? That's a match I'd pay to see. I don't know about you, but I would love to see these two outside of WWE colliding in an AEW ring. That would be phenomenal. So, oh man, I think it's high time Pac has a championship, and I think this is his time. I think finally we put a title on Pac, and it's the AEW All Atlantic Championship. How long he holds it, I don't know, but I think he walks away from this four-way with that strap around his waist. Then we have Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy for the IWGP United States Championship. Will Ospreay, I talked about him a couple episodes ago, maybe, how exciting it would be to see him at Forbidden Door. And we got to see him on Dynamite and Rampage, and now we're getting to see him face Orange Cassidy. I think this is going to be such a fun match. I haven't seen a whole lot of Will Ospreay matches, but what I have seen of him has been impressive, and I can't wait for this match. And I can't wait for Kenny Omega to come back, because I want to see Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay in an AEW ring. That's what I want to see. So I hope down the line we get that match. But this is going to be a fun one to watch too. Orange Cassidy is part of New Japan, and I forget which dojo it is, but he's part of that group. And man, I could see him walking away with that. So that would just invite more appearances from Will Ospreay and United Empire, etc., to come in the doors of AEW and challenge for that title. So I'm going to go out on a limb with this one and say Orange Cassidy takes the title from Will Ospreay in this match, and we'll see a rematch down the line. So then we have our two big championships. We have the IWGP Championship and the interim AEW World Championship. So let's go with the IWGP one first. Jay White versus Okada versus Adam Cole versus Adam Page. And oh my goodness, if you told me a year ago that we were going to get this match, White, Okada, Cole, and Page in a four-way for the IWGP Championship, I'd be like, let's have it now, is what I'd be saying. Let's bring that to me now. And we're finally here. Forbidden Door, these four colliding in a four-way match. This is just going to be wall-to-wall. It is going to be somewhat of a spot fest, but at the same time, these four guys, they know how to tell a story in a ring. They know how to push all the buttons, pull all the strings. They're going to put on a spectacle, the likes of which we've never seen, I think. And it's going to be, this could be a show-stealing match right here. And this match alone would have me buying this pay-per-view. Absolutely, hands down. I can't wait to see this match. Who walks away with that championship? Jay White walks in with it. Who walks out? Will it be Adam Cole? Will it be Adam Page? Will it be Okada? That's a tough call. Being the IWGP Championship, I mean, do you take Page away from AEW and send him over to Japan to defend that title? Do you take Cole? Man, that's tough. Or do you have Okada walk away with it? I think, man, this is so hard. I don't see it. I don't see it put on Cole. And now that the AEW Championship's off a Page for a while, oh man, this is hard. I'm gonna predict Adam Page walks away with it, and this is gonna lead to a series of matches that are gonna see Okada and White and various other stars from New Japan in and out of AEW, and Page in and out of New Japan. I love this partnership. I love the possibilities that we're going to see going forward, even beyond Forbidden Door. And I can't wait to see what happens. And any one of these four guys could walk away with this championship, and it would be justified. It would make sense. You could play it a multitude of ways. I think it's either going to be Paige or Okada, but I'm going to go out on a limb again and say it's Paige. Partially because I'm a fan of Paige. I want Paige to have gold. I want Paige's star to keep shining and him to stay on top, but we'll see what happens. But that's my prediction. I think Paige is going to walk away with it. And then finally, we have Jon Moxley versus Hiroshi Tanahashi for the interim AEW World Championship. How wild would it be to see Tanahashi get the AEW Championship? And down the line, we have Punk versus Tanahashi, which is what we were going to have to begin with, right? So, I don't know. We could also have Moxley versus Punk. This could go either way, honestly. That's the beauty of every single match on this card. Any of them could go either way, and it would be a win-win for fans of AEW and New Japan, and just wrestling fans in general, I think. Because you're going to see an amazing show put on by all of these wrestlers. And talk about the wrestling. Man, this is a stacked card. But as far as Moxley and Tanahashi go, this would make Moxley a 2-time AEW champion. The first ever, right? If I'm not mistaken. Man. I don't know. This is hard. Moxley or Tanahashi? My gut says Moxley. But, I mean, it could be Tanahashi too. Is Tanahashi going to stay in America and appear with that championship and defend it until Punk's back? We don't know how long Punk's going to be out yet, right? So, and Moxley versus Punk is money, pay-per-view money, man. But so is Tanahashi. My gut, I'm going to stick with my gut, though. I think Tanahashi could win it, and you could make a play for that storyline-wise, but my gut says Moxley's going to walk away with this championship. All the signs are pointing towards it, so I'm gonna go on that limb and say it's Mox. So that's my predictions for AEW Forbidden Door, AEW New Japan Pro Wrestling Forbidden Door, which is this Sunday on pay-per-view. If you have not decided whether you're going to get it or not, hopefully this podcast helps you make that decision some way, shape, or form. I'm excited for it. I've been waiting for this one for a while. I've talked about it on this podcast before, and some of these matchups, then we didn't know all these matchups, and now I'm so pumped for this. This is going to be a wild night of wrestling. And as a wrestling fan, this is going to be fun to watch. So I can't wait for this one. Hopefully you can't wait for it either. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on who you think is going to win each one of these matches. Who you think is going to be Bryan Danielson's replacement. If it's not Cesaro/Claudio, who do you think it's going to be? I'd love to hear that. Let me know. Drop me a line. Or connect with me on social media at the Awcast. There's that again. And before I get out of here, of course, once more, you can find other episodes of the show on YouTube at allpodcast.com. That's awpodcast.com. Or you can find the audio version at allpodcast.com/show or on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts from. And you can also subscribe to the newsletter at allpodcast.com/subscribe. And you will get a free AEW fan comic by creator Todd Black just for signing up. And stay up to date on all the happenings here at the All Podcast. So thank you again for tuning in, and enjoy Forbidden Door. Come back next week as I talk about WWE Money in the Bank. And until next time, keep watching wrestling and stay awesome. Take care.